Good. So we are back. Hey, if this can happen at Mark Zuckerberg trying to testify before Congress, it can certainly happen from my living room. I feel like this segment, though, like there should be loud theme music. I should be running down some huge corridor in tight pants, no shirt, and diving into the ring because I get to chat with my old pal, Brian Flinn, the CMO of the WWE. Brian, are you with me? There he is.
How you doing, Scott?
I'm all right. I'm sorry we had a little snafu there on the microphone and the camera, but like I said, if it can happen to Zuck, it can certainly happen to us, right?
No worries, and please keep your shirt on, no tight pants.
the entire viewing audience just said, "Thank God that you stepped in there." I mean, think about this. You and I go back. I'm not exaggerating. We're almost 3 decades.
Yep.
Where you and I, as snot-nosed kids, running around the floor of Madison Square Garden, pretending to know what we were doing.
Yep.
Right. But think about how it has all changed. And for you, I want to start with what was the strategy? What was the atmosphere at WWE when you realized that so much of what makes your event special, that live audience, was going away?
Yep.
What went into those strategy sessions?
Sure. Well, first I'd say, listen, I have vivid memories of our time running around Madison Square Garden together. It's circa 1995, right? Sitting together in the press box. Absolutely great times. And yeah, 30 years later, we're still kicking. So, as it relates to our strategy, when we were into February and March, and obviously things were changing dramatically, and the venues that we do our business in, the NHL and NBA venues and arenas that we tour on a regular basis, were starting to close down. Obviously, we needed to pivot, but the strategy didn't change, really. It was our execution, and I think Lisa mentioned that in her remarks as well. Our strategy about how we produce content, how we engage with fans, is true and tested, but certainly the way that we had to execute was going to change. And we were on the precipice of our most important event of the year, WrestleMania, which was coming up in April. So a lot of major decisions had to be made. Fortunately for us, we have access to a training facility in Orlando, a world-class training facility called the WWE Performance Center, where we bring athletes in from all over the world to learn the art and the craft of what our performers do. So we turned that performance center into a closed set, and we're able to keep producing content for our weekly program, 7 hours of primetime weekly programming on a regular basis. Now, in some cases, we had to tape that programming, right, to make sure that we were adhering to the local protocols that were put in place. But we were able to keep marching forward. It also allowed us an opportunity to innovate, right? So WrestleMania, which is our spectacle, became a 2-night taped event. We created what we call cinematic matches, right? We took the action out of the ring and created these movie scenes that we had never done before, to much critical acclaim. And there was great success. We added more subscribers to our direct-to-consumer service, WWE Network, than we had ever done before. Most social event in our history. And we did almost 1 billion views of our content across all of our platforms.
Everybody's been talking about a pivot to digital, evolution, not revolution. What has the pandemic done to change the pace of that movement?
Yeah, and as you know better than so many, the trends were all going in that direction, but the pandemic certainly accelerated it. And you can see that across digital consumption. You can see it across e-commerce, right? The tension between e-commerce and retail has long been in the marketplace. And if you want to look at what Peloton is doing, obviously the e-commerce sales and digital consumption across the health and wellness space is well documented. We saw it too. Our venue business, where we sell merchandise to our fans who are attending our events, went to zero. And kudos to our consumer products team. They've made up the difference for the most part with e-commerce sales. But that doesn't happen just because the pandemic hit. It happens because you're prepared for those trends. Our shop and our e-commerce team have long been planning to really lean into new products and better experiences across the e-commerce space. So we were prepared for it.
So when I last went to an event at the Garden with my son, I had to walk out with a mask and a replica belt. Are you saying that you've made up for those lost sales in arena via e-commerce?
Yes. Yeah. Our e-commerce business has almost offset those sales. And again, kudos to the team for being prepared, because those trends were happening anyway. They've been accelerated by the pandemic, but it just doesn't happen because the consumer behavior is shifting that way. You've got to have the infrastructure, the product, and the experience online to be able to capitalize on that. And our team had it in place.
Now, you have a background at the NBA. I used to cover the NBA, and I think we were lucky that we could sit and listen to David Stern, who nicknamed Digital Dave, and many people point to David as a visionary. But he did see that spread coming early, and he understood that the scale of these businesses could be achieved via technology. You couldn't just run a business if you were talking live event in arena, and that's where you guys are now pivoting.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as, and David was the visionary, as you say, and you sit under the learning tree, I've had the opportunity to not only sit under that learning tree, but I have it now with Vince McMahon, another visionary, right? I joke around with people here that I've got my master's from David J. Stern University, and I'm working on my PhD from Vincent Kennedy McMahon University. I mean, these are two leaders that when you sit and listen, you can absorb a lot. And Vince had a similar mindset on the digital front that David had. When I first joined here, we as a leadership team had an assignment every week that we needed to submit to Vince directly what we as individuals did across social media and what our departments were doing across social media. And we all looked at each other at first like, why exactly are we submitting these detailed updates to Vince? And it was to create the muscle. Right, Vince wanted us playing in this space so that we became proficient, and it became second nature. It was a land grab about how you can engage audiences. But if you weren't going to do it yourself, how could you become, a quantifiable expert in the space? And so right. That's what we've done. We've made the land grab, and all of that has set us up to be successful now, as all of these trends are being accelerated by something that obviously no one saw coming.
We love data and analytics. Give me some data analytics. That'll tell us what is working, what the fans, the viewers are enjoying, and what will have staying power and stickiness when this pandemic is over. What do you think that'll be?
Yep. So, and we can pivot to the Thunderdome, because it's really an interesting conversation in that while we had this opportunity to move to our performance center in Orlando and continue to produce our content, the one thing that was missing there was certainly our fans, right? Obviously they weren't there in person, and we had not yet created that virtual experience. As we progressed through the early summer, we were looking for a couple of different opportunities to make a major splash with one of our tentpole events called SummerSlam, which launches in August. And as we were going down these parallel paths of where do we host this event, looking at some of the more iconic and unexpected locations that you might put a wrestling ring, our television production team was also working on this Thunderdome virtual fan experience. And we decided to go down that route because of the longevity and the legs that it had. And that's that we launched. And I would say our television production team has long been a source of pride for this company, widely recognized as the leaders in live event production, and they outdid themselves again. We've had more than 200,000 fans register for seats at our Thunderdome since we launched. And
let's set it up for people who may not know what it is. Each fan gets it looks like a flat screen TV, and they're present in a seat at the event.
Yeah.
So it adds that emotion that's missing without a crowd in the building.
Yeah. Well, and so there's a couple things, and we've partnered with a company called the Famous Group. But if you take a look at what we've done, and you can see it on a Monday or a Friday night on either USA or Fox, but we created what looks like thousands of seats around our ring, because we've got that many screens put into the arena. We took residency at the Amway Center, so we got a permanent location in Orlando, and really recreated what an in-ring environment will look like. Rather than fans sitting in seats, they're individual faces on screens. And every show, we've got thousands upon thousands of fans that register for a seat. The key thing that we've done, though, is with almost no latency. So as action is unfolding in the ring and someone's watching on their computer screen, there's that sort of two-way interaction. There is audio interaction. Obviously, we sweeten some of that as well, just like all sports properties are doing to create that atmosphere. But there is now that two-way interaction between performer in the ring and fans. And we've even brought the celebrity and legend factor into it. In fact, on Monday night, Matthew McConaughey was sitting in the Thunderdome interacting with former WWE champion Drew McIntyre and having sort of a back and forth. So it's really a dynamic experience that we've created. And our fans, it's resonated with our fans for sure.
I hope Mad Max doesn't have a trademark lawyer and he's sending you a C&D right now. What does this mean?
We've cleared all of that, don't you worry.
Yeah, well, you never know. What does this mean for partnerships? In the old days, it was really cut a check, we'll slap your name on something, and that's enough. I'm guessing now with the partnerships, you better bring more to the table than just money, because everyone's going to bring the money. How, especially in the tech world now, what else can you bring to the partnership? Will that make the difference over who gets these deals?
Yeah. So what's interesting, and there's an evolution to the Thunderdome. It's what we're sort of working on right now. Is when you're in that virtual experience, and not only are you watching what's happening in the ring, there's another sort of private digital experience that you can have with WWE, and there's an opportunity for our partners to activate and connect with those audiences. There's an opportunity for us to provide unique experiences, whether that's interaction with our performers, one-to-one interaction with our performers. Exclusive products. There are levels that we can add to this Thunderdome experience. But for us, from a partnership perspective, it's always been about the integration across all of what we offer, right? We are one-stop shopping, from the performers to the in-arena experience to all of the digital and social platforms. We own everything. And so partners can come to us and get access to a full suite of assets, including the individual IP of a performer, which is unique across most of the sports entertainment categories.
Yeah, you did the great job of mentioning your television partners. Kudos to you. What are the conversations like with a Fox, who also is dealing with this across all of their sports properties? What's the give and take, and what do they want to do with you, especially at a time like this?
Yeah, it's well, Fox and NBCU, and then the list of partners around the world goes on and on. They've been fully supportive of what we've done. They've put safety and flexibility first in all of this. They appreciate the efforts that we've put in place to continue to deliver content to them when other properties weren't able to do so. And what's really interesting, like I said, is television production for us has been a source of pride for this company, right? We produce, unlike sports properties, we produce what people are seeing on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, sometimes Sunday nights. That's all coming from us. But then you add the sort of power and expertise of a Fox Sports and an NBCU, and look at what happens on Friday nights with augmented reality, and then on the ad sales side, the powerhouse of WWE and Fox Sports going to market and bringing in a progressive. Like there's synergies when you bring talented, hardworking people together. And that's what we've seen with WWE, Fox, and NBCU. And
how heavily are you leaning on the wrestlers themselves to amplify all that's going on? I'm sure they can push on social, they can push on digital. How heavily are you leaning on them?
Yeah, we've always leaned on them, right? So at just like any sports property,
it's a superstar-driven. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Those individual stars are what people connect with, and we're fortunate that the passion that we have for entertaining our fans is shared by the passion that our performers have for connecting and engaging with fans. In fact, interestingly enough, while they're so active on social and across all those platforms, we actually launched a small program called Virtual Meet and Greets, where it was an opportunity for our performers to sit down and have a 2 to 3 minute conversation virtually over the internet with our fans. And it launched in August, and our performers came back to us and said how refreshing it was, right? Because they missed that sort of that dialogue, that they didn't see people in the arenas anymore. They didn't see people out at events. And so the fact that they got a chance to spend a few minutes with these fans that were so passionate was refreshing and invigorating to them, because they understand the art and importance of engagement, right? We are storytellers. While it's athletic competition, the results are predetermined and it's scripted. So their success is really based on how good are they at engaging with audiences and connecting with people, whether that's one-on-one or 1 to 80,000. And they're really good at it. And
they would prefer the 1 to 80,000. Let's not kid ourselves.
Well, you'd be surprised. If you go backstage at a Madison Square Garden and watch our performers sitting down with a kid from Make-A-Wish or just some fan who somehow was backstage, that one-to-one connection is wildly important to our performers. And when you look at the smile on that fan's face, you know that it's equally as important to the 80,000. Yeah, there's nothing like performing in front of a WrestleMania crowd. That's the dream. You'd be equally impressed with that connection that's made on a one-to-one basis.
All right, let me just tell you this. One piece of advice, the one thing I think the WWE got wrong throughout the years, I don't think SD Special Delivery Jones won enough big matches. That is mine. That's all I got for you, Flinny. We got to go. Thank you very much, my friend. We will talk to you soon, but stay. You're not going to want to miss Eben Novy-Williams coming up. He's dealing with Zach Leonsis and Rachel Jacobson.